Welcome back to When Stars Fill Half the Sky, a novel by Pete Caputo. Chapter 17, The Alliance of the Damned, Part 1. His parents, Liam and Sarah, had a farm along the southernmost tip of the western coast of the continent Alabez. Lumer had 4 older brothers and 1 older sister. He was an exceptional 12-year-old, full of life and vigor. His strong, agile frame, although not yet fully developed, set him apart from his peers. A leader of sorts, yet still prone to stints of immaturity and recklessness, traits that often got him into trouble and mishap. He loved to explore, especially near the caverns and cliffs along the raging shoreline. It was a special place full of wonder and awe. Since his earliest recollection, Lumer heard voices coming from the thundering surf along the rocky coast. Sometimes they would call to him. Closer and deeper he ventured near the dark cave entrances, only to be turned away by the beck and calls of his parents. Now Lumer was only days away from his rite of passage ceremony to have his first encounter with the PRISH-TYLOI. This special and crucial ceremony was essential to one's personal growth and sense of identity within their culture, and on a certain level, Lumer was very much looking forward to it. But the voice from the caverns continued to haunt him, challenging every thought and tradition of his parents and their culture. That faceless call, relentlessly tickling his ears and dazzling his eyes with floating objects, fire and ice, and the occasional exploding of boulders and trees. Each time, these tricks grew more appealing to the curious young mind of Lumer. It lured him with the promise of disclosing even greater, wondrous secrets, only if he would swear to never tell another soul. This charade went on right up to the day before Lumer's ceremonial appointment, when he announced to his parents he did not want to take part in his rite of passage. Gave no explanation, just expressed pure defiance and abstinence. His parents, humble yet proud, were shocked and speechless. Being a part of an already quickly shrinking minority who still dared to live by the ancient ways, they did not acquiesce to this news. A long and heated series of debates ensued, along with certain disciplinary actions. Eventually, his parents won the battle, and the boy agreed to fulfill his traditional obligations. By the morning of his ceremony, Lumer had sufficiently prepared and was once again looking forward to the event. It was a placid and beautiful day. The family set out for the sacred grounds of Sin-Mubal. Eastward they traveled, beyond the majestic snow-capped Atacombe mountain ridge. The first beams of sunlight shone upon the early morning mist of the Falonage Valley, where the boy and his parents walked quietly along a country path leading them to a grove of young sapling trees almost 5 meters in height. Within that patch of dewdrop-laden trees, rays of early morning sunlight splintered into a splendid array of light prisms, skittishly reflecting off tiny blue pear-shaped fruit. The sight of these trees, their fragrance, and their sweet taste set one's heart to dancing, but the stimuli and excitement of all senses were only secondary pleasures compared to the true wonder of this place. From the first light of day, a sound like the faint ringing of 1,000 tiny glass bells delighted their ears. They stopped and listened. This was the song of the morning dew. At one time, this was a normal occurrence on such a beautiful morning, but swiftly becoming a rare event during the current troubled times. Places like this one were quickly becoming few and far between. Liam and Sarah smiled at one another, reminiscing. The song was a good sign. but quickly nudged their son to move on. Rumors of war and impending attack were all that anyone could talk about, and so time was very precious. The path led to an open field of violet flowers and high grass swaying in the breeze. Before them, about 300 meters away, was a tall and ornate gateway. It was made of a pearl-like material, where an asymmetrically structured wall stretched for as far as the eye could see in either direction. The far edges on either side appeared to simply fall away from view, indicating a very large circumference or boundary defining the vast circular property inside. Michael and Julie were there as well, as they all stood before the elegant Gate of Ascension. At this point, there should have been a joyous welcome and fanfare, where ceremonial temple guards would greet the young candidate. But neither special music nor any party of onlookers accompanied their arrival. The looming threat of war placed a dampening effect even on the decorum of such a wonderful place. Liam and Sarah kept their thoughts to themselves, for they could see Lumer was fully taken by the magnitude of the moment. His heart raced with anticipation as he gazed upon that beautiful garden temple and what waited for him inside. They stopped before the gate, the same way Lumer's parents did with their parents and their parents before them. Lumer, wide-eyed and awestruck, looked upward to view the enormous and beautiful gold and precious gem-laden door as a soft breeze tossed his long flowing black hair. Leah and Sarah, however, would not move one step further, for even though their hearts longed to enter the sacred garden, this visit was not for them. This was Lumer's special day and his meeting with the mighty PRISH-TYLOI. And so, as their tradition dictated, they would simply wait. This is Sin-Mubal, my son. Your moment has come for you to pass through the gate and leave your childhood behind. Now this is the moment you and I have talked about. Soon you will know and understand everything as your mother and I do. You will know all the PRISH-TYLOI has for you to know. You'll meet with the spirit of Elohim, and he will reveal to you many mysteries, my son. But what he shares with you is meant only for you. Then, when you return here, you will be different. You will know this for sure in your heart, for from that moment on, you will be a man. Let me take that from you now, my son, said Liam, reaching around his back, lifting the cloak of childhood from Lumer's shoulders, leaving only a simple white garment. Lumer trembled slightly, but not from the subtle chill in the morning air. It was the solemn words and forbearing tone in his father's voice. Even though he was somewhat frightened, he was also prepared, realizing that his parents had trained him well. Father, how long will it take? For your mother and me, it will not be long at all, but for you, it may feel like hours or even days. Time is meaningless as you stand before the tree. What you will remember is the beauty of the journey. The message that will be given you, well, you have the rest of your life to decipher all of that. Will you and Mother be waiting for me when I come out? Of course, my son. Nothing could tear us away from seeing you walk out this gate as a man. Just like you, we have also waited our entire lives for this. Now go, Lumer. It is time, Liam charged, as the gate opened. With eyes wide in wonderment and awe, they gazed through the expanding threshold into the garden temple, where beautifully kept trees, shrubs, vines, and plants adorned the outer courtyard. Another enticing fragrance, like the mixture of sandalwood and patchouli, accompanied the song of the morning dew as Lumer entered the outer courtyard of that sacred place. There were others stirring about. Some were dancing and singing. Others walked or sat quietly. But everyone was totally at peace and immersed in feelings of wonder, reverence, and awe. Michael looked at Julie as they witnessed Lumer's entrance. He glanced at his hand and Julie's neck. They were shining brightly as they followed Lumer through the open gate. So bright was their entry, it seemed to catch everyone's attention. Immediately, they all dropped to their knees with their faces to the ground. Lumer's parents looked on with tears in their eyes as the temple residents bowed before Lumer. There was an ancient prophecy as told in one of their texts. It read, "And a prince not yet crowned will cause the elders to bow in the midst of the holy place. He shall be a source of great influence and power." Lumer proceeded, unaware of the onlookers and their prophecy. His mind was now focused on the PRISH-TYLOI. A path stretched before him. Various sized flagstones inlaid deeply with flakes of black onyx and gold were set upon a course of shimmering pearlescent red soil. He walked slowly but steadily through a vast outer courtyard of quaint hamlets, past rows of ancient sculptures and other curious artifacts. Many residents offered words of greetings, felicitations, and encouragement to Lumer along the way as garden residents revered the tradition of the rite of passage. The travelers followed quietly from a distance. The path led through a grove of finely manicured white hedges bordering thin bamboo-like trees connected at the top by a network of translucent vines, creating an airy overhead canopy spotted with millions of tiny white leaves and florets. For another stretch, the path took them through gracious hills and dales adorned with magnificently colored foliage and fauna indigenous only to the garden temple. Lumer started to notice a steady narrowing of the path as he approached the final embankment, outlining the border between the outer and inner courts, until the path narrowed to a lane only wide enough for one person. He stopped at the brink of that final hill to view the 7 footpaths and bridges equidistantly spoked around the water basin, hugging the circular-shaped inner court. Lumer stood at one of these entrances. Just before him was the ring-shaped cleansing pool. It was fed by a series of pristine brooks and streams from the hills just behind him. The cool, clear water of that pool formed a negative edge on its inner side where a soft waterfall, only about 2 meters high, collected into the lower basin surrounding the small center island, the home of the PRISH-TYLOI. The mist from the waterfall created a soft, glowing cloud of energy that meandered through the surrounding trees. Like Lumer, Julie, and Michael had to stop as well, for no being, no matter what realm they presided in, could ignore its unfiltered, awesome beauty and power. The travelers were now back to their initial starting point when they arrived in Tellaria. But now Lumer was there as well, and suddenly appearing to his side was the young child Sebastian. Julie jumped instinctively upon seeing her baby boy standing in a strange place, interacting with a strange young man, but instantly realized that he could not see them, for this was only a memory to observe, not a moment to interact. So the travelers had no choice but to watch as their son descended into the cleansing pool. He motioned to Lumer to join him. Removing his sandals, Lumer stepped into the cool waters and looked to the waterfall before them. He peered back at Sebi and smiled. They waded together in that refreshing basin. For Lumer, the water was only knee-high, but the toddler was submerged up to his neck. The tiny orange-colored fish gathered and purified both of them of any dirt or impurities. They laughed together, splashing about, sharing a moment of light-hearted amusement.
I have to go now.
You're not going before the tree? I can't. But maybe we can meet again sometime. Will you be my friend? He stared confusingly at Sebastian, now turning back toward the outer court side of the pool. Lumer responded by lifting his shoulders in an adolescent signal of affirmation, replying, "Okay." Lumer looked toward his destination. The bridged path rose steadily out of the cleansing pool, spanned over the waterfall and lower basin before landing on the banks of the inner court. He turned one last time to look for the baby boy, but he was gone. Lumer paid little attention as his focus was now on the next phase of his journey. Carefully, he emerged barefoot from the pool and walked steadily across the bridge. Fixing his gaze upon the unusual fountain of colors just above the tree line, he knew the PRISH-TYLOI was not far off. The holy grounds of the inner court welcomed his arrival as the sounds of the falling water melded together with the rustling leaves and the bird song above. With each step, Lumer knew the PRISH-TYLOI was the conductor of this glorious symphony. Such a sonic enchantment, the sounds which could only be mimicked but never quite duplicated, was an integral part of that special ceremony. Likewise, everything from the strongest limb to the tiniest vine knitted into a perfectly laced embroidered pattern pointing directly toward the tree. Lumer arrived, his face alight, eyes brimming with tears, and his heart filled with newfound joy. Tears streamed from the travelers' faces as well. It was impossible not to be moved by this perfect balance of nature and spirit. But they knew the moment was short-lived, for Michael and Julie knew the future. Lumer would never stand before the tree. Something terrible was about to happen, and sure enough, something did. In the next chapter, Michael and Julie continue their journey back in Tellaria, where they witness the war that led Lumer to his unholy alliance with Babel and the birth of the collective.